Earth's skies turned dark as the first Threxer dreadnought pierced the atmosphere, its sheer size blotting out the sun over Washington, D.C. The alien ship, sleek and metallic with jagged edges that seemed to absorb light, was a harbinger of humanity's worst fears. Moments later, a booming voice echoed worldwide, transmitted through every device and every channel. The message was chillingly direct: surrender your world or be annihilated. Captain Jack Reynolds stood in the control tower of Andrews Air Force Base, his jaw tight as he stared at the monitor, showing the alien fleet in low orbit. Jack was a man who'd lived through countless combat missions, but nothing had prepared him for this. His blue eyes, sharp and calculating, moved to the tactical display where bright red icons swarmed Earth's defenses. Every satellite and probe sent to investigate had been swatted away like flies. "Sir, they're targeting major population centers," said Lieutenant Marcus Hawk Hawthorne, his voice steady despite the tension. Hawk, a former NASA engineer turned military consultant, had spent the last 2 years working on advanced aerospace technology. His dark skin glistened with sweat, and his hands moved swiftly over a console, pulling up trajectories. "If they hit DC directly, we're looking at millions dead in the first strike." Before Jack could respond, the ground shuddered. A sound like rolling thunder roared across the horizon as a beam of searing blue light carved through the Capitol dome, reducing it to rubble. Chaos erupted on the base. Alarms blared, soldiers scrambled, and the air buzzed with overlapping radio chatter. Jack clenched his fist. "Get me a secure line to NORAD. Now!" Across the base, Sergeant Miguel Cortez barked orders at a group of Marines loading supplies onto transport vehicles. Miguel was stocky and battle-hardened, his face scarred from years of close combat in deserts and jungles. He had seen war in every form, but the sight of the alien machines descending from the skies left him uneasy. Towering bipedal constructs, each bristling with weaponry, stomped through the streets of D.C., their glowing eyes scanning for survivors. "Move it, people. We don't have time to stand around gawking," Miguel shouted. His voice carried authority, cutting through the panic. Inside a nearby command tent, Dr. Samuel Grant studied the incoming data feeds. A theoretical physicist recruited for his work on quantum mechanics, Samuel was an anomaly in the military's rigid hierarchy. His disheveled gray hair and mismatched tie contrasted sharply with the polished uniforms around him, but no one questioned his presence. He leaned over a display showing the alien war machines in action. Their movements were too fluid, their precision too exact. "They're coordinating through a quantum-linked network," he murmured, scribbling equations on a notepad. "If we can disrupt it—" Jack stormed into the tent, his voice cutting through the noise. "Doctor, I need solutions, not theories. We're being obliterated out there." Samuel met Jack's intense gaze. "Captain, their technology is synchronized through quantum entanglement. That's their strength, but it's also their Achilles heel. Earth's natural electromagnetic interference could disrupt their link if amplified correctly." Jack stared at him for a moment, then nodded sharply. "Work on it. Hawk, help him with whatever he needs. Miguel, prepare your team for an extraction op. We're getting civilians out of this hellhole." Miguel saluted and headed out, his mind already racing through strategies. Meanwhile, Hawk joined Samuel, his engineering expertise complementing the scientist's theoretical brilliance. Together, they began assembling a rudimentary electromagnetic pulse device, scavenging parts from damaged equipment and grounded drones. Outside, the alien war machines advanced, their weapons tearing through buildings with cold efficiency. Jack climbed into the cockpit of an F-22, his fingers wrapping around the controls like second nature. Over the radio, he addressed the squadron. "We're buying time for the evacuation. Focus fire on their legs. Immobilize them if you can. Let's show these bastards what humans are made of." The jets roared into the air, streaking toward the towering constructs. Jack led the charge, his plane weaving through a barrage of plasma bolts. He locked onto a war machine and unleashed a hail of missiles. The explosion rocked the construct, but it remained upright, its shield shimmering. Jack cursed under his breath. These things don't go down easy. On the ground, Miguel's team moved swiftly through the city, guiding civilians to transport vehicles. A group of children clung to their parents as Miguel waved them forward. Keep moving. We've got you. Overhead, the battle intensified, with alien drones now joining the fray. Miguel grabbed a discarded rocket launcher, aimed at a drone, and fired. The explosion lit up the sky, earning cheers from the nearby Marines. Back at the base, Samuel and Hawk activated their makeshift EMP device. Hawk wiped sweat from his brow as he explained, "This should disrupt their synchronization temporarily. It's not much, but it might give us an edge." Samuel nodded and pressed a button. A pulse of energy radiated outward, invisible but potent. In the distance, one of the war machines stumbled, its glowing eyes flickering. Jack noticed immediately. "Whatever you did, it's working. Keep it up." The moment of triumph was short-lived. More war machines descended, their numbers overwhelming. Jack's radio crackled. "Captain, we can't hold them off forever." Jack grimaced. "Fall back to the base. We'll regroup there." As the team reconvened, battered but alive, the alien fleet's voice echoed again, dripping with disdain. "Humans, your resistance is futile. Submit or face extinction." Jack looked around at his team. Hawk, Samuel, Miguel, and the Marines who had fought valiantly despite impossible odds. He saw the determination in their eyes. He stood tall and grabbed a radio. "This is Captain Jack Reynolds. If you think we're going down without a fight, you don't know a damn thing about Earth." The team's makeshift efforts had bought them time, but the battle was far from over. Jack knew the odds were against them, but he also knew one thing. Humanity's spirit was unbreakable. As the alien fleet loomed overhead, Jack's voice rang out, steady and defiant. "Let's show them what it means to pick a fight with humans." The others nodded, their resolve unshaken. The invasion had begun, but so had humanity's fight for survival. The mountain bunker was a hive of controlled chaos. Beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility known to only the highest levels of the military, humanity's remnants planned their next move. Screens displayed live feeds of cities in ruins, alien war machines stomping through once bustling streets. The weight of their failure to defend Earth pressed heavily on everyone in the room, but Captain Jack Reynolds refused to let it crush him. He leaned over a holographic table, his piercing blue eyes scanning the digital layout of Los Angeles. The Threxer had established a major command base there, their biomechanical machines forming an impenetrable perimeter. Jack's finger jabbed at the heart of the display. "This is where we strike." Lieutenant Marcus Hawk Hawthorne frowned, adjusting the tactical glasses perched on his nose. "I'm not saying we shouldn't hit them, but we need to be smarter about it. Their tech is still leagues ahead of us. That scramble we threw together only gave us a glimpse of what's possible. That's why we're going to do more than throw punches this time," Jack replied. He turned to Dr. Samuel Grant, who sat nearby, hunched over an array of alien tech fragments. "Doctor, tell me you've got something." Samuel looked up, his eyes bloodshot but bright with determination. "We've been studying the AI core Miguel's team recovered during the retreat. It's a marvel of quantum engineering, too advanced for us to replicate. But," he reached for a device resembling a warped circuit board, "we've learned how to weaponize its weakness. If we amplify the EMP field Hawk and I developed, we can disrupt their entire command network within a localized area." Hawk stepped in, pointing to the schematics. "The problem is delivery. We can't just drive this thing into their base. It's fragile and needs to be deployed with precision. That means aerial insertion, and someone's got to get close enough to plant it." "I'll do it," Jack said without hesitation. "Captain, that's suicide," Hawk replied, his voice rising. "Those machines will tear you apart before you even get near." "That's why we won't be going in blind," Jack said, his voice firm. He turned to Sergeant Miguel Cortez, who stood silently by the door. Miguel, your team will lead a diversionary assault. Draw their forces away from the base. Give me and Hawk a window to get the device in position. Miguel crossed his arms, his expression unreadable. We'll get it done, he said finally, his deep voice carrying an edge of steel. Just make sure your plan works. I don't want to see my men die for nothing. It will, Jack assured him, his gaze steady. This is the first step to taking back our planet. The next morning, under the cover of a pre-dawn sky, the operation began. Miguel's team moved through the outskirts of Los Angeles, their movement swift and deliberate. Each Marine carried explosives designed to mimic the energy signatures of advanced weaponry, bait for the Threxer. Miguel himself carried the largest payload, his years of experience guiding him through the rubble-strewn streets. When the first alien war machine detected their presence, Miguel smirked grimly. Here they come, he muttered into his comms. He fired a grenade at the machine's legs, watching as it stumbled briefly before righting itself. More constructs appeared, their glowing eyes fixed on the small band of humans. Miguel signaled his team to split up, each soldier leading a portion of the alien forces on a wild chase through the city. Above, Jack piloted a modified stealth helicopter with Hawk in the co-pilot seat, the EMP device secured in the cargo hold. The city stretched out below them, a labyrinth of destruction and alien occupation. Jack's hands were steady on the controls, but his mind raced. This mission wasn't just about survival. It was about sending a message. Humanity wasn't beaten yet. Hawk monitored the sensors, his expression tense. Miguel's team has drawn most of them away, but the base is still crawling with drones. We're going to have to stay low. Copy that, Jack said, angling the chopper into a sharp descent. The air grew thick with smoke and debris as they approached the Threxer command base. Hawk activated the EMP device, its hum filling the cockpit. We've only got one shot at this, Hawk warned. If the device gets damaged... It won't, Jack cut him off. We're finishing this. As they neared the base, alien drones began to swarm. Jack pushed the helicopter to its limits, weaving through the incoming fire. Hawk leaned out the side, firing a mounted railgun at the nearest drones. Sparks flew as one of the machines exploded, but another quickly replaced it. The Threxer weren't letting them in without a fight. On the ground, Miguel detonated the first of the explosives, drawing more war machines away from the base. He barked orders into his comms, keeping his team moving. When a construct cornered him in a collapsed building, he set a remote mine and dove through a shattered window. The explosion rocked the structure, collapsing it on the alien machine. "Captain, you're clear," Miguel reported, his breath ragged. "Make it count." "Copy that," Jack replied. He brought the helicopter down on a precarious rooftop overlooking the alien base. Hawk unstrapped the EMP device, and the two of them moved swiftly, staying low to avoid detection. The alien base was a sprawling mass of glowing conduits and pulsating structures, each piece humming with an unnatural energy. At the center of the base was the command node, a towering spire that radiated light into the sky. Jack and Hawk approached cautiously, the EMP device glowing faintly in Hawk's arms. "We've got to get this as close to the node as possible," Hawk whispered. They moved quickly, dodging patrol drones and automated turrets. When they reached the base of the spire, Hawk set the device down, his hands moving with practiced precision to arm it. Jack kept watch, his rifle trained on the shadows. "Hurry up," Jack muttered as the first drone appeared. He fired a precise shot, the bullet tearing through the machine's core. Another drone followed, then another. Jack's aim was unerring, but the odds were stacking against them. "Almost there," Hawk said, his voice strained. The device emitted a high-pitched whine, signaling it was ready. Hawk stepped back. "It's armed. Let's move." The two men sprinted away from the spire as the EMP device reached critical charge. A pulse of energy erupted, washing over the base in a wave of crackling blue light. The alien structures flickered, their glow dimming. Drones fell from the sky, their movements erratic. From his position outside the city, Miguel saw the pulse and let out a triumphant laugh. "That's what I'm talking about," he shouted to his team. The Threxer forces were faltering, their cohesion shattered. Jack and Hawk reached the helicopter as the EMP's effects continued to ripple through the city. Hawk turned to Jack, a rare grin breaking through his usually serious demeanor. "We did it." Jack nodded, his expression grim but satisfied. "This is just the beginning. Let's get out of here." As the helicopter ascended, the alien base crumbled beneath them. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity had struck a decisive blow. The Threxers' retreat from Los Angeles marked the first crack in their seemingly invincible armor. Across the globe, news of the victory rippled like wildfire, sparking hope in places where despair had taken root. Yet the war was far from over. High above Earth, the alien fleet regrouped, their ships forming an ominous ring of light that pulsed with energy. Humanity had struck a blow, but the Threxer would not allow such defiance to go unanswered. In the heart of the Rocky Mountain bunker, Captain Jack Reynolds stood before a room of weary but determined faces. The team's efforts had bought Earth a reprieve, but the cost was clear. Threxer forces were shifting their focus to consolidate power in the Midwest. A massive structure had emerged near St. Louis, its towering spires stabbing into the sky like jagged teeth. From this central node, the Threxer could restore their fractured network and resume their domination. Jack's voice cut through the hum of the room. "We have one shot at this. If they finish that node, we're done. It's not just a command center. It's a factory. They're building reinforcements there, and we can't let that happen." Lieutenant Marcus Hawk Hawthorne stepped forward, his gaze fixed on a holographic projection of the alien node. "They've adapted since L.A. Their new defenses are resistant to the EMP we used, but they still rely on the same quantum synchronization. If we can get inside their central processing unit and disrupt it directly, we could shut down the entire operation." "Getting inside is the hard part," Sergeant Miguel Cortez interjected. His voice was gruff, his expression grim. "Their defenses are tighter than anything we've seen. They're learning from every move we make." Dr. Samuel Grant leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples as if massaging an idea to life. "What if we didn't just disrupt their synchronization? What if we turned it against them?" The room fell silent, all eyes on the physicist. Samuel continued, his voice gaining confidence. "We've been studying the AI core we recovered. It's designed to function as part of a larger network. But with the right modifications, we could use it to send false commands. We wouldn't just shut them down. We'd force them to destroy each other." Jack nodded slowly. "How long would it take to make that work?" "Too long," Samuel admitted. "But we don't need it fully operational. If we can plant the core in the node, even a partial signal could wreak havoc." Miguel crossed his arms. "So, another suicide mission?" Jack met his gaze. "No one said this would be easy." The team worked around the clock, preparing for the final assault. Hawk and Samuel modified the alien AI core, integrating it with a makeshift transmitter. Miguel trained a strike team, focusing on rapid infiltration tactics. Jack reviewed the plan over and over, searching for weaknesses, knowing there was no margin for error. As dawn broke over the Rocky Mountains, the team boarded a fleet of modified stealth aircraft. Each man carried the weight of the mission and the future of humanity on his shoulders. Jack sat in the cockpit of the lead jet, his hands steady on the controls. "Let's finish this," he said over the comms. The fleet approached the alien node under the cover of dense storm clouds. Lightning flashed, illuminating the massive structure below. The Threxer had fortified the area with a web of drones and war machines, their movements synchronized and precise. Jack's voice came through the comms, calm and authoritative. "Phase 1 distraction. Miguel, you're up." On the ground, Miguel's team launched their assault. Explosions rippled through the outskirts of the node, drawing the attention of the Threxer forces. War machines turned to face the threat, their glowing eyes scanning for targets. Miguel grinned as he fired a rocket at the nearest construct. "Come on, you ugly bastards," he muttered. Chase me. In the air, Jack led the fleet through the chaos, weaving between bolts of plasma fire. Hawk monitored the AI core status, his fingers flying over a control panel. "We're nearing the drop point," he said, his voice taut with focus. "Hold steady," Jack replied. The jet's engines roared as he dove toward the node, the spires looming larger with every second. Inside the node, the atmosphere was alive with energy, the air crackling as conduits pulsed with alien power. Jack landed the jet on a precarious platform, the engines hissing as they powered down. He and Hawk exited quickly, carrying the AI core between them. The structure's interior was a maze of glowing pathways and shifting panels, every surface humming with life. "We don't have much time," Hawk said, glancing at his scanner. "Their systems are already reacting to us." Jack nodded. "Let's move." As they navigated the labyrinth, drones appeared, their metallic bodies glinting in the light. Jack raised his rifle, taking precise shots that echoed through the cavernous space. Hawk worked on disabling others, using a handheld scrambler to disrupt their targeting systems. Finally, they reached the central processing unit, a massive chamber filled with spiraling conduits and a pulsating core. Hawk set the AI core on a platform, his hands moving with practiced speed to connect it to the alien systems. The room vibrated as the two technologies clashed, sparks flying. "Almost there," Hawk said, his voice strained. "Keep them off me." Jack held the line, firing at an onslaught of drones that poured into the chamber. His movements were efficient, his determination unwavering. He glanced back as the AI core emitted a deep hum, its signal spreading through the node. "It's working," Hawk said, a hint of triumph in his voice. They're turning on each other. Through the chamber's viewports, they saw chaos erupt. War machines began attacking drones, and the drones retaliated, their synchronization unraveling into mayhem. Outside, Miguel and his team cheered as the Threxer forces collapsed in disarray. "We've done it," Hawk said, stepping away from the core. But his relief was short-lived. The node began to shake violently, its conduits sparking as the systems overloaded. "This place is coming down," Jack said. "We need to go, now." They sprinted through the crumbling structure, dodging falling debris and collapsing pathways. Jack called to Miguel over the comms. "The node's compromised. Get your team out of there." "Already on it," Miguel replied. "See you on the other side." Jack and Hawk reached the jet just as the platform gave way beneath them. Jack hit the throttle, the engines roaring to life as the aircraft shot into the sky. Behind them, the node imploded, sending a shockwave that rippled across the battlefield. As the jet ascended, Jack looked back at the wreckage. The Threxer fleet above Earth began to scatter, their ships veering off course and colliding. One by one, they retreated, leaving Earth's battered surface behind. In the bunker's command room hours later, cheers erupted as the news spread. The Threxer had fled. Humanity had survived. Jack stood with Hawk, Miguel, and Samuel, their faces reflecting exhaustion and pride. "We proved something today," Jack said. "We're not just survivors. We're fighters." Hawk nodded, a rare smile breaking across his face. "And they'll think twice before coming back." The team exchanged a look of quiet triumph. Earth wasn't just alive. It was ready for whatever came next.